Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. It's going to be a little bit different with a few other things going on here. It's not just going to be set on one vehicle. We got a few things to do. We've noticed that when we put these wheels on here, we need a little bit more poke on the front wheels, as we were saying there. So we got like a tiny little spacer that we can poke that back out. So we're going to put those on today, as well as the last video that you've seen there of the LS3 first startup there. Tidied up all the wiring harness. As you can see here, it's tied nicely. It runs through the factory spot back here. All the injectors and coils run over here, mass airflow. So this looks super clean with all the wires on and everything, and I'm very happy with how Wiring Specialties make this harness. They made it like perfect. All the connectors and everything just plug right in perfectly, and they're the right lengths and everything. All the ground's hooked up, everything's labeled, super easy. So now that we know that it runs and everything, I'm actually going to vacuum bleed the cooling system, fill it up with fill it up with coolant, and then let a heat cycle run through it, let it do its thing, and let it run in open loop. So it'll just keep idling there. I won't be revving it up or anything, just because it doesn't have the O2s to read for fueling and everything. But other than that, we're gonna vacuum bleed this system here, put those wheel spacers on. So we also picked up a undershield for Dawson's car here for his G35. The other one that was on this car wasn't really existent. I think it flew off or something. So we picked up a OEM one off Z1 Motorsports here. So we're gonna put that on underneath. And then that way the undershields won't be flapping around. So I can take this car for an alignment and do the safety on it, and then that way then we can do that, and then once that's done we can send it to the paint shop to get the bumpers and everything touched up on the plastics, and then that car should be pretty well good. We're going to start off with this here, with bleeding everything out here, as well as I'm going to tuck in some of this stuff here. This is the ECM and stuff down here. I know you can't really see in there, but I'm gonna tuck all that stuff up nicely under the dash and mount the OBD2 port underneath here so it looks clean. So if we go to tune it, we can just plug it right in underneath, just like it was over there. So we'll do that today as well. So if you guys have ever seen something like this before, this is actually called a vacuum bleeder, and this will sit on top of where the rad cap is here. So if we go to pull this rad cap off, it should seal on top like this, and then you tighten it, and then you're gonna actually hook up an air line on one of the sides here with one of these lines, and then it will draw a vacuum in the whole entire cooling system. And then when you turn a valve over, you have a tank on the side with this stuff mixed into it with the coolant, and it will pull it in, and then all the air pockets will be pulled right out of it. So it's a pretty handy thing to have. If you're ever familiar with the old VQs, that like with the VQ that's in that car and that used to be in this car, they were terrible to bleed the cooling system. So this will pull any air out, and it'll be a lifesaver, save a lot of time. So here's a basic example of kind of how it's set up here. This is, we're gonna hook this up to an air line, so it's gonna be pressurized air coming through here. Any residual is gonna come into here, that's just excess stuff. And then it's going to create a vacuum at this point, because air will be passing by this valve here. It'll be pulling a vacuum out. This is your gauge to tell you what this cooling system's at. And then once you get it up to a decent amount of vacuum inside the system, you crack this free here, and then it will suck the coolant, the good coolant, in and place it into all the spots in the engine that have air in them, and replace it with fluid. We'll just button down and it will bypass through, creates a vacuum, and then that's kind of how you do this. It saves you a lot of time. So as you've seen there, we pulled most of the air pockets out. An easy way to tell too as well, if you have the rad cap off and you squeeze each individual hose, you should see the coolant rise up a little bit from the radiator. Then you know that most of the hoses and everything have coolant in them. So that's just an easy way to tell that. But we should be good. So we're gonna fire this thing up, see if it pulls any more coolant through, and then eventually we'll let it warm up outside and then run through its whole cycle. So now that that's warmed up, we let it warm up outside for most of the time there, and then we're gonna let it cool back down, see if it pulls any coolant if it needs to. So for right now, we're gonna pop this thing up on the jack, and then we're gonna get the wheel spacers on the front and see if we get a little bit better fitment on the front here. Nice. Now that we've added that 5mm slip-on spacer there, I normally don't like the slip-ons, but if they're that small, then you can usually get the hub ring in there and it still sits in nicely. If it's anything bigger than that, I usually like the bolt-on ones, but these were perfect in our case because it actually flushed up the wheels. They sit pretty well level with the back now. It's exactly what we were looking for. Nice and level with the fenders, so just exactly how Dawson wanted to have it. So it wasn't so inset on the fronts. So now it's a little bit more leveled out. So I think that looks pretty good. The only thing left that we have to do this now tonight is throw that undershield on. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Now we're gonna play a little bit of musical cars here. We're gonna move this car back a bit, fire mine up, pull it out a bit, move the tractor out, and then probably slip the 350 underneath this one just so we can get the undershield on it. And then the undershields aren't flapping away underneath there. That should be good. I should be able to sneak that out. So now that we got this one here pulled up, we got the 350 pulled behind, we can work underneath here. We're going to go ahead and throw the undershield that I was talking about over there, button up all this stuff so we can get it over to the alignment and the body shop to get all this stuff painted, because this right now is flapping around. So we'll get that all buttoned up and then screw it all together. Okay, so clearly this looks a lot better now that we have this shield up here to keep things from flapping around when I go to drive it. It's going to keep, you know, obviously it looks way better too. It keeps all the water and shit from splashing underneath of it. But that's pretty much going to conclude today's video as we install the spacers that you've seen there. We didn't get around to tidying up the PCM and everything on the 350, but I'll get to that maybe in a later video or something. But I do want to say that it's kind of cool seeing, I know it's 255 subscribers don't sound like very much, but to me it's pretty cool because if you think about it, if you're in a room and you have 255 people watching one person, it's kind of a cool thing to think of instead of comparing yourself to the guys out there with 100,000, 200,000 subscribers or whatever. Everybody starts somewhere, right? But I think it's pretty cool that 255 of you guys have decided to watch just me. It's kind of cool to keep up with the projects and stuff like that and see what I do in the day in the life. It's going to be good when we get summertime, so we'll be able to pull these cars out and kind of get more of, you know, driving them and everything else, and there'll be more projects to come soon. But I just wanted to say thanks for subscribing and the support, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Comment, like, subscribe. See you guys.